Thank you for attending this presentation on the paper titled Digital Gardening with a Forest Atlas, Designing a Pluralistic and Participatory Open Data Platform. My name is Michelle Westerlaken, and this paper is written together with Jennifer Gabrys and Danilo Urzedo as part of the Smart Forests research project. And today I'm talking to you from Cambridge in the UK, a place that has been at the center of epistemological colonialism and science imperialism for a very long time. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and also here my ancestors have violently dominated the world in terms of both territorial and cultural imperialism. And this research is about forests, and forests are at the center of indigenous struggle for land, livelihood, survival, and epistemological justice. And as part of this land acknowledgement, I want to draw specific attention to those indigenous cultures that are almost always excluded from this increasing attention towards traditional cosmologies. Those that are actively and violently erased through all means possible, and not only by the Western world. My own deeply transformative and everyday connection to embracing non-Western cosmologies is through the Kurdish indigenous culture of my extended family. Kurdish cosmologies have been erased, and Kurdish people are used as pawns in many geopolitical conflicts. Their forests are under threat from all sides. Hiç dostek veç kalequestan. We have no friends but the mountains, is a Kurdish proverb that connects this struggle to their lands, traditions, and more than human relations. And learning what this means is an ongoing and very difficult process. The Smart Forest project investigates how forests are becoming digital environments and what are the socio-political impacts of digital technologies that monitor and govern forests. Worldwide, such digital infrastructures include technologies such as forest sensors, satellites, drones, tree planting apps, restoration platforms, and monitoring devices that are transforming forests, shaping forest governance, and impacting local communities. The online platform that we created for this project aims to provide tools for stakeholders, including researchers, technologists, governmental institutions, NGOs, local and indigenous communities, and more than human entities who are residing in diverse places across the planet to gather, explore, share, and discuss forest-related open data. And when we started to design this online platform, the Smart ForestsAtlas, we undertook a design inquiry into open data platforms and environmental atlases that already exist. So these include experimental projects such as the Feral Atlas, or environmental data platforms such as Global Forest Watch. We also specifically looked into digital platforms created and used by indigenous communities, such as the Amazonia Alerta and SOMAI, both engaged with deforestation events and fire monitoring in the Amazon. And we reflect on these platforms in more detail in the paper itself. We then also came across this concept and practice of digital gardening, which is a relatively recent phenomenon that describes a particular way of designing a web space for sharing and archiving content and ideas in progress. So instead of polished blog posts or web pages, digital gardening involves more free-form, unfinished, and playful reflections and content sharing. This concept is actually extensively discussed among designers, so there are like Reddit groups, blogs, and other online communities that are sharing best practices for this. But within academia, this concept is still absent from discussion. So this gardening metaphors refers to growing, nurturing, seeding, or fertilizing your own personal website. So growing different kinds of plants or content and requiring continuous care for the digital garden to flourish. And these type of web spaces enable more public knowledge generation, more transparency on the process, and more participatory reflection. So in case you're interested in reading more about this concept, I really recommend this page by designer Maggie Appleton, and she outlines the history of digital garden in relation to earlier forms of hypertext storytelling. However, by reading more about the idea of digital gardening, we also found that this concept actually risks reinscribing existing colonial and anthropocentric understandings of gardening. Because on the same page, several instances of this become clear that I'm showing on this slide. So gardening is also described as claiming and controlling space, removing or pruning weeds and unwanted content, establishing order, and taming wilderness. So these instances demonstrate that the idea of gardening, when it is understood only within a Western or Eurocentric context, can turn into sites of extractivism and epistemic erasers. Such understandings are historically linked to ecological destruction, colonial plantations, and botanical taxonomy. So in other words, digital gardening, while offering a very helpful design concept, also risks to reinforce practices of controlling content, limiting unwanted growth, and cultivating preconfigured ideals of a perfect botanic garden. And so through the design process of the Smart ForestsAtlas, we try to discuss, to challenge, and to expand this concept, to bring it more in conversation with decolonial research. So the design process of the Smart ForestsAtlas started in March 2021. And after looking into these existing open data platforms, environmental atlases, we then identified design characteristics. We then also commissioned design cooperative Common Knowledge, who helped us to further design and develop the Smart ForestsAtlas in more detail. And this process also involved a design workshop and various interviews with project members and stakeholders. And so now, after almost 1.5 years of design and development, we have a first iteration of the Smart ForestsAtlas that is live. And I'm really happy to show you a short demo and then conclude with the design qualities that have really helped us then to identify how this practice of digital gardening can be expanded. So welcome to the Smart ForestsAtlas, an open data platform, living archive, and virtual field site that brings together stakeholders and researchers in exploring how digital technologies are transforming forests. Although atlases have historically been used as colonial tools to mark out territories, the Smart ForestsAtlas instead seeks to draw connections and generate plural and emergent knowledges. There are no set guidelines to navigate the atlas in a predefined manner. We encourage wandering. So 4 interconnected wayfinding devices can help with this. So logbooks share existing smart forest related projects. Each logbook contains multiple short entries with unfinished thoughts. And then stories, they are slightly longer and more in-depth reflections on atlas materials. And the map offers a spatial representation of digital forest geographies and their connections. And the radio gathers interview podcasts with practitioners, field recordings, and more than human soundscapes. But the most experimental navigational feature of the atlas is the tag network on the homepage. So all content can be tagged with keywords by the authors. And these tags form an underlying network through which atlas visitors can create their own pathways through the site. The homepage shows a tag cloud network with 30 tags that change when the page is refreshed. And when clicking on a tag, a side panel shows the different items that contain this tag. And the same tag network algorithm also shows related tags for each entry at the bottom of the page. And we hope that the tag network and the 4 wayfinding devices will encourage visitors with an interest in forests and digital technologies to follow their curiosities and create their own pathways to learn about forests and digital technologies globally. We also aim to use the Atlas as a digital method and open data platform to grow research and knowledge publicly and experiment with new forms of pluralistic and participatory knowledge generation. So through this design process, we propose to expand the idea of digital gardening with 6 additional design qualities. And design qualities here are understood following Schau and Bartzel, with the aim to help both critique and generate design. So these 6 qualities focus on building relational commons, enabling epistemic justice, expanding participation, transforming digital infrastructures, cultivating wayfinding, and moving through praxis through aspects of open data, data plurality, more than human data, sustainability, and unexpectedness. Each of these 6 qualities are outlined in more detail in the paper and also connected to existing research in the field of participatory design and decolonial design and other related areas. And articulating these qualities has really helped us to identify our aims and values while creating and testing this atlas. And then it's also guiding further iterations that we will expand upon in our next testing and design phase. So these qualities are not meant to indicate universal design principles, but instead they are a search for generating more pluralistic, participatory, and dynamic design approaches to digital gardening. So the Smart Forest Atlas is now live at atlas.smartforests.net, and I would really like to invite you to take a look. This is the first moment of sharing this link publicly, and we would really love to hear any thoughts on this work so far. Thank you very much for joining this presentation.